Bonjour!
Oh? I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
That was weird.
Bonjour!
Bonjour and
Welcome to the French interpretation of Bing.
Hi everyone, how you doing? It's 2023 to you, but it's July 2022
Did you have to have a think then?
for us. A tiny bit. We're currently living through like the heat wave in the UK at the minute, which is
Today's not too bad.
today was clement compared to
Clement.
I don't know. I'm just trying to use nice words. But we're here to talk about the last 4 episodes of the modern season 7. I'm Chris.
I am not Chris.
And down there is a sort of accurate 11th Doctor. Do you know what watching this half of the series made me realise?
Go on.
He's never worn a purple coat.
Poiple.
Poiple. He's never
not worn purple or poiple.
He's never worn a poiple. Shut up! He's never worn what?
What's going on?
He's never worn a purple coat in the show.
He's never worn a
No, but has he?
purple coat.
His tweed coat in this half of the series has got purple in it, but it's like purple and red and brown.
I think the only person that cares is you.
Shut up, you. So, but the reason I'm pointing out is because like all the merch for this half of the series, I've got like the big chief figure upstairs.
Yeah, and
They're all
it's in
purple.
Yeah.
But it's not purple.
Yeah,
It's not purple.
it's not purple.
It ain't purple.
It's not purple.
Yeah, I think the toy tries to get away with it by having it be textured, like it's got little knobbly bobbly bits on it to try and allude to the idea of all the what would you're a craft person. What kind of knit is that? What's the weave of the material? So it's tweed. So like that's trying to kind of incorporate the texture of it and use one colour for the toy, but it's weird how much merch makes it be flat out purple.
What? It'd be flat out purple.
It'd be flat out purple though.
What series is this?
Series 7.
7.
I just googling, so I'll talk about these in the meantime. We've also got technically a Clara figure here from a B&M set, but it's not. It's just the Oswin figure.
It's kind of purple.
It's the Oswin figure with
it's
a
like a plum.
plum. Yeah, okay, but that's not purple. It's not that
Plum
purple.
is purple.
Yeah, but it's not that purple, though, is it? Come along now. It's not
That's
that
plum.
purple.
Oh shit. Whoops.
Anyway, so yeah, this is basically an Oswin figure without the belt and a different paint on the head. But it's the only Clara figure I've got because when I saw them in 2014,
This is going great.
2014, 2015, they stopped releasing Doctor Who figures widely, and at this point they started to release. It was like a limited line, like the collector's line to Forbidden Planet, which over the course of the year was like maybe 3 or 4 figures, including, do you remember those 3 variants of the same weird Capaldi Moffat hybrid figures? Policewoman Amy, which had already been released years before in the Christmas Carol set. And like eventually they released some slightly more interesting ones like the Missy figures through online order and then store versions, and all 3 were technically different. So it was like, you could get, they were all variants if you wanted them. And then there was like Bill and Tuxedo 10th Doctor and better 12th Doctor sculpts with the more accurate head sculpt and everything. But like, yeah, the Clara they released was just this, but the shoes were like black.
Yeah,
and the legs were black. Actually, no, I can't remember if the legs were coloured.
Black belt or something.
I think the legs and the shoes were coloured black, and this was a deep blue, and it was that's just the Oswin figure recoloured. You're thinking of the Oswin figure, which is this one with the belt, with like the whisk and toolkit and everything on it.
Oh, wait, so there's 3 figures.
There've been 3 figures. There've been 3 figures in this range, the 5-inch range, of Jenna Coleman. One depicting Oswin Oswald from Asylum of the Daleks, which we've got and was in that video with us, and she has the belt on and she had a souffle and a slightly different head paint. This one, which came out in a B&M set of 11th Doctor characters, which is just Oswin, but without the belt and is labelled as Clara on the box. And there was a Clara figure that was this, but with black legs and black boots, and the dress was blue instead of red. So it was just like, it was Clara in a casual dress with tights and black trainers instead of red trainers. It's like, you can't be arsed. Now, to be fair, that's been character options for the last like 10 years pretty much now, just variants of things that already exist. One of the reasons why you'll notice, folks, as the videos go on, less and less figures appearing, because I couldn't be arsed spending money.
Indeed, sir, indeed.
Now, speaking of couldn't be arsed, Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS is an episode I watched on broadcast and have not watched since. I remember thinking it was kind of dull.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to report I wasn't wrong. I still think it's kind of dull. I still think it's dull.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, you've already seen the episode, but a tiny little summary, just in case you need your memory jogged. It's the one where, as not Chris described before this, a magnet beam pulls them into a... well, the TARDIS stops momentarily because Clara's... The Doctor gives Clara a chance to try and pilot it for a moment, like tries to teach her how to use some of the console.
Trying to get her and the TARDIS to get along.
Yeah, which is a plot point that's, like, not been hammered in, really. It's just been hinted at in the episodes. I suppose the week before was Hyde, and Hyde was the one where there was the whole thing with the TARDIS wasn't letting her in and stuff, so it's like, fair enough, like, it's fresh in the memory. So they come out of the time vortex for just a moment, and then this junker ship tractor beams them in because they're hoping to salvage them, and then when they realise it's just a box, they're like, oh, never mind, we'll just jettison you out into space. And the Doctor, who seems to have fallen out of the TARDIS during all this, is like, yeah, you've completely screwed up my ship, but we've got to go and save Clara, because she's in there somewhere.
If you don't do it, I'm going to self-destruct.
Well, yeah, at first it's, I've got the greatest treasure ever in there, and it'll be worth it, I promise you can have the salvage, you know, if you help me save my friend. And then once they get in there, he's like, yeah, I was talking bollocks. Anyway, self-destruct sequence engaged, you've got 2 hours. Oh, wait, no, you've got half an hour. You know what I mean? It's just like, wow. So the premise is interesting. The Doctor takes a bunch of unscrupulous thieves into the TARDIS to help save Clara, and hilarity and hijinks and scares ensue. It's just kind of boring.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the fault of the script or the performances or the direction. I think it's just that it could never quite match up to what your imagination can conjure for the TARDIS now, in terms of the depths of it.
It's lots of the same corridor. It's
like if it was the Fifth Doctor era,
corrugated
it wouldn't be too bad because we spend a lot of time in corridors and like companions' bedrooms and the zero room and different, and we get used to the grey corridors with the roundels and floating pill coffin things and Tegan and Nissa's bedroom. Like we get used to different rooms, like the wardrobe we see several times during that era. We get used to it, whereas in this era, all the modern in all the modern era, we've not really seen anywhere beyond a couple of obviously kind of mocked up for just that one shot rooms. Yeah. Or we had those really dull corridors in The Doctor's Wife.
Why were Nissa and Tegan sharing a room?
You do realise that it was a fan theory for years that they were like getting it on, and then in the Doctor Who lockdown, Farewell Sarah Jane short, Russell T Davies wrote that they were a couple.
Yay.
Effectively going, it's canon now.
Yay!
Now, as of this recording, the Centenary Special doesn't have a title and isn't out yet, because this is July 2022. Tegan's in it. I guess we'll find out if Chris Chibnall decided to run with that or not when we get to that. So,
here's hoping.
What I love about that is people might be watching this going, oh, you guys have no idea.
Oh, gosh.
Is
it good, guys?
Hopefully for good reasons.
Guys, can you tell us?
Well,
now,
we'll know by now.
Type in the comments if it's good or not, and we'll see it in 5, 4... no.
So, Ashley Walters, Mark Oliver, and Javel Hall play Gregor, Bram, and Tricky, who are the salvage... But they're basically scavengers. They're sort of lazy pirates. They pull stuff out of drifting through space and ransack it. And we learn that 2 brothers and their android companion, and the 2 brothers, like their dad did this business for. So essentially, they've inherited this scavenging business, salvaging stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, let's stop hanging up on it though, because we'll add time to the video. Says the man going senile who's just spent 20 seconds explaining that, meaning I've just added 20 more seconds to the video. Back in my day. So, what do you think of the weird subplot that reveals that the one who's a cyborg isn't actually a cyborg, it's their brother with a couple of cyborg bits implanted in him, apparently to save him, but then they basically memory wiped him and convinced him he was a robot for a laugh.
I don't get it. So, if you're watching this, listening to this, you've seen it. Spoilers. One of them dies.
Yeah, one of them died. Well, by the end, none of them
died.
died. But yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, one of them gets killed. We'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah.
So, the cocky one that we hate, he doesn't seem bothered that the older, maybe not older one, but the first guy died. Yeah,
it doesn't seem remotely fussed, even though it's his brother.
But is that his brother? Are there three of them?
Yeah.
Why does he not care? Why does he not care that his brother just died?
Or why doesn't the editing direction or whatever give us a moment to show us that he cares?
Yeah, because at first I thought, maybe he was the android, and the guy who thinks he's the android is the brother.
Well, that's the reveal. The younger brother is the one who's been led to believe he's a cyborg or an android.
Yeah, because
he's been led to believe that because he was their dad's favourite and was going to take over the business. Like, the dad was going to give the business to him.
Yeah.
So the older brother got jealous and instead, took advantage of his brother's accident to essentially brainwash him into thinking he was just a robot that worked for them. It's some nasty stuff.
That's sick. I mean, why?
And there's no redemption for him either. He doesn't get a chance to turn it around. He
steals a part of the TARDIS.
Do you know what this is? It's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but everyone's awful. There isn't a Charlie. There isn't a Charlie. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's Augustus Gloop and Veruca Salt and everything. They're all that. So actually, no. I guess the cyborg guy might be Charlie. Yeah. Clara's circumstantial. She's just a random Oompa Loompa that got lost somewhere.
Oh no.
The Doctor's absolutely Willy Wonka, so he's a git. But we briefly venture into the Eye of Harmony, and it being just this exploding white light corridor, bridge through a chamber, is nowhere near as exciting as TV movie cathedral with a big stone thing that opens in the ground. I guess it's also now confirming that, the Eye of Harmony's in this TARDIS. It's not on Gallifrey anymore. Sorry, everybody.
But, the guy steals a part of the TARDIS.
Yeah, and mutilates it too. He doesn't pluck it; he saws it off. Yeah. And then the TARDIS goes I'm going to go beast mode on all of you, including the Doctor and Clara.
And it was why is the Doctor let him do that?
We didn't let him do it, but
no, but he didn't stop him.
And also, why is the TARDIS reacting like that when it knows the Doctor's inside?
But why did we not know that was a thing before?
Also, because
did he put it back?
Well, here's another thing too. So that room is essentially it's the combined knowledge of all sorts of development and invention and technology, and that room essentially can grow you anything that can be invented. That's what its purpose is. That's what it's described.
Right.
And that's why the guy wants to nick it. 'Cause if I take one of these, I've basically got a 3D printer for technology. This would be amazing. But in the modern series, we've never really seen anything that would make you go, oh yeah, with that, or oh yeah, with that. In the 60s, you've got the machine that creates
water and
tablets that taste like food and full meals and have all the nutrients, and you've got the bloody scope thing, showing them where the destinations are going to go and viewing different parts of time and everything. Let's see, Ian awkwardly dancing to the Beatles. There was stuff back then that made you go, oh okay. Pertwee's TARDIS, all those computer banks, 70s computers that made it look like there was always, computations going on, and the TARDIS was a machine that wasn't just the console; it was all over the place. In the modern series, it's not really been anything whenever the Doctor's got kit out, it's just been in a trunk under the floor or something.
Or it's something that he's made out of random pieces,
it's the machine that goes ding.
The one where he can see in Vincent and the Doctor, where he can see that the creature.
It was a gift off of an ant or something. Was how he describes it.
That he got randomly given. No.
Wait, it was a gift. It was a gift off of an ant for Christmas or something like that.
Made or something.
No, it was a gift given to him by an ant.
Wasn't it something that he randomly made?
No, what are you doing? Oh my god!
No, but he has done that before, where he's made stuff out of random things. It's like, well,
but never in the
why
TARDIS.
would he have had to have done that?
If you could just pop downstairs, yeah. And then we've got the time zombies, which are an interesting concept. It's very Red Dwarf in the idea that, like, everything's going wibbly, so there are kind of fake console rooms out of whack with the main one, which is why Clara ends up in the wrong one and all this sort of stuff. But it's the TARDIS trying to stop things from escaping, ultimately, including these time zombies, which are future echoes of what's going to happen to all 5 of them. That's a really lovely morbid concept when you notice, hang on, there's the conjoined one, there's the small one, which we eventually realise is Clara, there's the one with its arm burned into its body, oh, that's the Doctor, and do you know what I mean? Like, you piece together that there are exactly 5 of these creatures, and there are 5 of these guys, and it's confirmed when the 2 hold, like, touch at the end, and essentially set in motion their mutation into the time zombie. And the makeup looks great. I love the way they're shot, or rather, how they're not shot. Yeah. Like, they're always out of focus.
Yeah, like blurry. Like motion blur.
Yeah, like they look... So you never get a proper look at them, ever. And that's kind of nice. It's a sort of... You know, can't see the join. Hey! It's a nice shooting choice. I like the little library that Clara hides in at one point. Like, we see a record of the Time War. We don't find out what she acknowledges, but there's a bit where she, like, goes, oh, so that's, you know, who's that? Or something. She says something like that, and I'm looking at it. I guess, in retrospect, it's meant to be a hint at, oh no, a giant dog! It's meant to be a hint at the War Doctor, maybe? I don't know. And then you've got, that's a great bit, like the history of Gallifrey and those bottles. And one gets knocked over, and you can kind of hear the whispers of the words pouring out. So they're not books; it's like liquid that contains the encyclopedia. Yeah, but that's a great idea. Like, that's really cool. And I suppose the other dramatic beat of the episode is, like, the Doctor is really panicking because he realizes that they might die, and he'll never get to solve the mystery of why he's met Clara 3 times. And he just confesses it to her, almost like accusatory. Like, I like that scene where he's just sort of like, right, come on, what are you? Time's up. Like, just fess up. What are you? What is this? And she's like, you are scaring me now. Like, what is happening? She probably slaps him. I can't remember, but it's a Moffat season, so she probably does just randomly slap him because slapping him is funny. Once or twice a season? Fine. So many times a season? That's a fetish.
Once or twice an episode?
Yeah. So I just thought it was kind of dull, all in all. This isn't an episode I will ever find myself going, I fancy putting on Journey to the Centre of the TARDIS. And that really sucks. We get to see the modern era's legendary swimming pool briefly chroma keyed into a doorway. I would much prefer the shite leisure centre with a Sontaran tripping over a sun lounger from Invasion of Time. Which is the reason this episode exists, by the way. Moffat commissioned it. He gave the writer Stephen Thompson the task of writing this one because he'd always hated that sequence in Invasion of Time and wanted to finally kind of correct it. And if anything, the boring like factory and leisure centre corridors from that story and the occasional glimpses in that era of the cloister room being like, you know, the cloisters of a church, of a chapel and everything, is way more interesting than what this episode gives us. Yeah. It's so bizarre.
I find it's spreading. I found it kind of boring, and the fact that it was like time traveled back.
Yeah, it just gets reset.
Reset. That's what.
Yeah.
It was kind of like
it gets Superman the movie.
That's pointless. I hadn't seen this one. This is definitely the era where I started to check out.
Yeah.
Because I'd seen the next episode. So I was a bit confused as to why I'd not watched that, but... the creatures that they turn into reminded me of the lava, like, people from...
Pyrophile!
Yeah.
Fires of Pompeii.
That's what it made me think of.
I mean, I thought they were more distinctly different. These guys was like black and charred and had like lava-y cracks in their skin and everything.
That's exactly the description I would use for the other.
No, the Pyrophile were like grey and charcoaly and like had no eyes and were flaky. Oh, you talk about the Roman soldiers, the big tall ones that were CGI and had lava coming out of them.
No.
And I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the ones the smaller ones.
The priestess, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like she wasn't charred and covered in lava. She was just like coal.
Did she have like cracks in her?
She looked like coal. Yeah, she looked like coal.
That's what it made me think of, and I couldn't see.
Unsee. Not a highlight by any stretch of the imagination.
Yawnage.
Then we've got the Crimson Order, which I have seen at least once since broadcast, and
I think we might have watched that together.
Moffat criticisms aside, because it's a Mark Gatiss script, but there's definitely some Moffatisms in here. Probably because the Paternoster Gang are the main characters of this story for the first half, and they're Moffat's creations.
Creation.
I like this one a lot.
Yeah, me too.
It is a lot of fun. Dame Diana Rigg as Mrs. Gillyflower is having a ball, playing an absolute monster. Rachel Sterling as Ada is doing such a great job as well, especially
so pretty
toward the end.
So pretty.
Yeah, it's again, just to jog the memory, it's the one where a series of deaths are happening at this small town called Sweetville in Yorkshire, this sort of compound, this commune almost. People are being dumped, bodies being dumped away from the place that's led those investigating to believe there's something going on there. And all the corpses have something similar about them. They are all kind of in a state of petrification with waxy red skin, and their faces are in rictus screams.
And they're completely red.
The Crimson Horror, they're calling it. That was a funny recurring bit, and I appreciated it.
Yeah.
The mortuary worker who's taking the bribes to let people examine the corpses and is obviously like making a killing doing it. So every time he has the same spiel,
dramatic,
because he's loving it, and he's the only person who calls it the Crimson Horror in the whole story. But there's that whole thing of like photo, like that belief that the eye almost takes a photo, an imprint of the last thing it sees, and in this case, because the chemical stuff they're dipped in, it does.
What does that make you think of?
Don't know.
That theory makes me think of Wild Wild West.
Oh, is that in there? Oh, of course, yes.
The guy who has
that
the colour on it.
Is a man's head.
What a film.
Yeah.
So he's going off of that, and
so they see the doctor in the guy's eye, so they go to investigate. First half of the story is Jenny infiltrating the Sweetville program, and Vastra on the sidelines and Strax preparing for backup and interacting with a boy called Thomas, a joke that I think had aged by 2013, never mind now in 2022, 2023 for you lot.
Yeah, it aged when it came out.
No, but like, were people using primarily TomToms as sat-navs by that point? I don't think they were. For the younger viewers amongst you, TomTom was the leading brand of satellite navigation system when they first started rocking up as gadgets you bought for your car. Like, many a father was gifted one for Christmas in like 2007, 2008.
We didn't have apps on our phones to show you where to go. We had to have a very expensive thing that would often disconnect from.
But you could download voices
cellular.
for it. They're usually terrible impressions of celebrities.
Brian Blessed was my favourite.
That was actually him, though. So so the joke of the boy giving directions to Strax of him being called Thomas is like, do you know what it felt like?
Forced.
It felt like a League of Gentlemen gag that Mark, like one of the silly little asides that Mark had come up with, but without having a League of Gentlemen to put it in, just waited and then just threw it in this.
What, it was just on his pinboard, just
just waiting to be used.
Piece of paper.
Like it's like all the extra bits and pieces in Royston Vasey, like the shops like Burger Me and things like that. All those little jokes that are in the opening sequence. It felt like something from that just kind of was shoved in here.
You see this and go, it's time.
Catherine Stewart does a fantastic job as basically our lead for the first half of this as Jenny, undermined ever so slightly by the weird leather catsuit reveal, which adds nothing to the episode.
I would say it's probably less practical and more uncomfortable.
Like, the idea of her having, like, some kind of battle-ready outfit underneath the disguise, the dress, is a great idea. The fact that it's just this leather outfit is a bit like...
It'd be cool if it
what
was the
is
same
this?
top that she, like the corset and stuff that she was wearing, but, like, pants underneath, because that would have been, like, scandalous.
Her wife is a Silurian who could probably have salvaged her some, like, ancient armor. It could have been a Silurian equivalent of, like, Kevlar or something underneath. You know, it just felt very weird. Especially because, like, Strax suiting up to fight is just him in his Sontaran armor.
Yeah.
Which is weird to see him in again now after we've spent an episode and a half with him in a big suit.
I just want to say, I appreciate the height of the collar that he has
on the suit. Yeah.
Extremely amusing. And
Strax is great in this.
His coat and cloak thing, it nearly covers his face.
Yeah.
It's that high. It's very, very amusing.
But Strax is fantastic in this.
Yeah.
Dan Starkey is brilliant. That's the thing. Katrin, Dan and Neve are excellent in their roles.
I love them.
And I almost wish that the episode had been part of a two-parter, so that part one could have entirely been from their perspective.
Yeah.
Because once the Doctor shows up, it's horrifying to see him in that state of, like, kind of trapped between the paralysis and death.
Lobster.
Like, it's really creepy, and Matt Smith's really selling the whole, like, he's trying to move his mouth and it's just not working. Like, because your mouth would be super dry as well, wouldn't it? Because, like, you'll swallow the chemicals and, like, your mouth's open all the time. It's really freaky. And the idea that, like, Ada's keeping him away is her little secret. Like, my own monster, my secret monster. And you never at any point think, oh, love, get away from him. You think, oh no, she is deeply lonely. Like, I mean, I'm glad she's managed to do this because it means he's going to get rescued at some point.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't feel like she's creepy. I feel like the situation's creepy. Like, she's not in the right in any way. Do you know what I mean? She's chained him up and put him in an attic.
Yeah.
At the end of that corridor that features in every series in several different stories and lots of other shows shot with, by, or near BBC Wales' headquarters.
Indeed.
But, seriously, in one of those other rooms, Amy's just gone and found a bunch of photos of her with a baby girl. But, yeah, it's... what was I saying? I don't know. Ada's played very, very well. The highlight of this is the creepy imagery for me. And the fact that they centre it squarely within the north.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that it is Yorkshire through and through really does make it stand out. Because, like, they would have just set it in Victorian London otherwise. The fact that it's set in Yorkshire just adds an extra level of variety to it that the show hasn't had for its, like, Victorian-era set episodes for a long time. Like, even when we've been in Cardiff, it's been with in Victorian Cardiff, it's been with, like, Simon Callow as, R.P. Charles Dickens.
Yeah. It helps people that aren't from the UK realise that the UK isn't just London.
Yeah. The ornamental kind of, like, doll displays of the people that are being kept in stasis, the people who've gone into the treatment and have survived it.
The ones that have been chosen, like,
because it's a Rapture storyline, isn't it?
Perfection, yeah.
It's a Rapture storyline, because we learn that Mrs. Gillyflower and her silent partner, Mr. Sweet, are basically preparing all the people they think that they're getting rid of. Essentially, anyone who is not pretty much a white heterosexual.
Yeah.
A white healthy heterosexual. That's basically their entire thing.
Yeah.
And she also has to personally think they're gorgeous, like they're attractive and will make attractive children, and the race that go forward will all be beautiful people and all this sort of shite. Because, like, we learned that she was never intending to take Ada with them since she was blinded.
Which is sad.
And it's just, it's so gross.
She's.
But then we also learned that she was basically going to cause the Rapture anyway.
Yeah.
Like, she was going to send a rocket up that was going to poison the rest of the Earth, and Sweetville would have been fine, and everyone living there they would have been a selected group of Adam and Eves, basically, to restart everything.
Yeah.
I like Mr. Sweet as a puppet, as a concept. I like that it is basically a parasite from like the Silurian era of Earth. It's a disease, a tick, and this one's just been quietly throwaway line. It's quietly mutated and just got a bit bigger, and obviously it's developed some kind of psychic connection with Mrs. Gillyflower. It makes you wonder what it wants or what it's going to get. I guess the Earth will be primed for it to like live and maybe have hatchlings or whatever. Like, I don't know, but it's just a lovely, creepy visual.
It is.
And she introduces a silent partner, and she just takes the top of her dress off and pulls it back to reveal this red lobster leech thing just suckling away at her skin.
Grim.
Yeah.
Very grim.
Matt Smith's Yorkshire accent is also very funny.
It is.
Don't like the Doctor lecherously snogging... No. I'll take that back. The Doctor being unfrozen from the process and giving Jenny a big kiss as like a, like, oh my god, yeah, I'm alive, you saved me, I thought I was gone, mwah, isn't too gross, because then of course it's that thing, if they could make it like a, excuse me, oh, sorry, moving on. But it's the fact that when he gets out, he looks her up and down, all kind of like he's
Jenny.
Drinking her in. Yeah, he says it like that.
Yeah.
And then when he snogs her, it's like, no, that feels weird now.
And then she slaps him.
Had the Jenny up and down, rightfully so, but it's also like, yeah, more slapping. But had he not done the Jenny bit, the kiss wouldn't have felt creepy. It would have just felt like this moment of elation and him getting a bit carried away. And, her as a friend being like, don't appreciate that, don't do it again. Let's move on, shall we? And instead it comes off as like...
He's a bit turned on.
Moffat really likes letting you know that women can sleep with other women. He really likes letting you know that. Especially if those women are the same person. Amy, Clara, DVD extras, we'll be getting back to that in the next video. He really likes that idea.
Have we not talked about that yet?
Not yet. We've talked about the Amy one with space and time.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But he really, really, really likes that idea. He's a hot-blooded man who likes the idea of lesbian sex.
Two ladies kissing.
Yeah. So, of course, he'd like to self-insert himself into the situation by having the Doctor snog the lesbian. I don't like the way you worded
that. That's not clever.
Oh, self-insert is a fiction-writing term, you weirdo.
Just the insert.
Put your penis away, Moffat! Anyway, point is, this is a Mark Gatiss script, but there are moments in here that feel like the father of the Paternoster gang has gone, please make sure that's in there, please make sure that's in there. And it's very, very odd and weird. Clara looks adorable in this episode.
She does, with all the hair on top of her head.
She looks adorable, and it just makes me hate the fact that we are not with Victorian governess Clara even more. I'm not hating Clara Oswald right now in this marathon. I'm enjoying the character. I am. I'm enjoying the character right now. What? Say it out loud, because this is a tiny mic. Say it aloud for the microphone.
Me too!
Good. And it's making me realise I think I started to sour on the character next series. But I still also am like, God damn it, why couldn't it have been a Victorian character? Oh well. I like Crimson Horror. It's a lot of fun.
I like Crimson Horror.
I'd like to read the Target novelisation. I know one's come out.
love the idea that it being a factory and, very northern industry. Jenny goes into, obviously she's like
Cockney,
broken in, and she's investigating, and she goes into one of the factory rooms, and it's just gramophones.
That's haunting, isn't it?
Really, really freaky.
Do you know what this reminded me of a lot, actually? BioShock.
Well, that
element of rapture and the best and the brightest being reserved for this society, and the Victoriana of, because BioShock's obviously set 30s, 40s, iconography of America, but there's a lot of that overspill from the Victorian era kind of designs and colour palettes and things like that, and the use of the gramophones playing the factory noises, that was so that might be the best detail in the episode, actually. It's really, really scary as an idea.
And her reaction to it as well is
Catherine Stewart's really good.
She's like,
Of course, the episode ends with Clara going home to find that Angie and Artie, the two kids in her care at the house she lives at,
Are two little
have
shits.
been doing a little bit of... No, in this one scene, they're actually quite good. Doing a little bit of homework. Where they learn that Clara's been places and been photographed on a submarine in Russia during the Cold War, and the house was under investigation in Hyde, and I'm like, I do not remember these photographs being taken at any point in these stories. This is very convoluted. Do you know how you do this? Do you know how you do this? You have the Doctor drop her off, like, at the end of the night or whatever, her get out of the TARDIS, and the kids be sat there watching and going, there you are. Like, they've watched the box reappear and they've gone, and she'd be like, well, hi, oh, we were just... They were like, no, we know. Like, 3 times in the past week.
And where have you been?
3 times in the past week. Yeah, do a play on that. The idea of the kids being like, what time do you call this?
Yeah.
And be like, for the 3 times in the past week, like, you don't think we've heard this noise in the driveway? You don't think we've noticed that sometimes there's a big blue box in the driveway and sometimes there isn't? You better tell us what's going on or we're going to tell Dad. Oh, mischievous cliffhanger, yeah? Mm-hmm. And that's what they're going for, but they're doing it with, we've found all these photographs that depict you. It's like, what? Which leads us into Nightmare in Silver, where Angie and Artie are not good. No offence to the child actors, who obviously would be adult actors now, Eve de Leon Allen and Cassius Carey Johnson. No offence to them.
But they're shit.
This isn't a great performance overall, and a lot of it's in the script, which is tough to say because it's Neil Gaiman with his second script, this time seemingly unassisted, and I wonder how much of this was hacked a bit, because pacing-wise, Nightmare in Silver's all over the shop. It's not a bad episode, really, but I think what makes it work are elements rather than the overall story and pacing. It is a classic, like, 4 out of 10. Like, it does its job, and it's got some good stuff in it, but it's not really anything special. And Angie and Artie are a big part of that problem, because their attitude almost immediately is, this is boring. Travelling to a theme park on the moon is boring. It's just like, everyone sat at home. Well, it's not on the moon, but it's, looks like it. Everyone who's sat at home...
Wheelers on the moon. Sorry.
You carry a harpoon. But everyone sat at home watching that going, you ungrateful little sods. You, the viewer, would kill for a chance to travel in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And the kids are bored by it. And that's something that I think makes me hate Clara as the story goes on next year, because it's really set up that, like, he just comes to pick her up every now and again. And I find that so weird to me. Yeah. Like, I didn't mind at the start of the series where she's like, ask me again tomorrow. Because she's kind of given herself time to think. He could obviously just take 2 minutes to go and meet her tomorrow if he wanted to.
Yeah.
And here it's kind of alright, because she's made the point of, I've got a duty of care to these kids.
Yeah.
If I'm away too long, I'm going to worry. So, every now and again, drop me off.
Yeah.
But it works this series. Next series, when she's living on her own, doesn't really make sense. But yeah. In the same way, like, yeah, there's the whole Danny Pink stuff and whatnot, but, like, by that point, she should be well into the idea of, oh, we could be back 10 minutes before I even left.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So, yeah. The kids act bored, and then they get zombified and barely do anything. Nightmare in Silver, again, recap for those who might have been a while since they watched it. They go to an extraterrestrial theme park. What the hell's it called? Is it like Merrick's World? Herrick's World?
I don't think so.
Can't bloody remember now. But Jason Watkins plays Webley, who's like the one person who still works there, and he's essentially a Ripley's Believe It or Not guy.
Yeah.
Like, he operates some of the rides there, like the Spacey Zuba, which is basically just low-budget wire work jumping up and down to make it look like zero gravity, but it looked really pathetic in the episode, and it was kind of laughable. This is the most fun thing ever. Is it? It's basically a bouncy castle. It's all you're getting, kid. And there's a CGI map painting of a theme park behind you. Like,
Doesn't say what the theme park's called. That's annoying.
that's all right. I've got an invite to it upstairs somewhere. Like it was a flyer for one of the events we went to that year, and it was like a fake advert with the map for the park and stuff.
Oh, should we go?
Yeah, sure. But we learn that this part of space is one of the many casualties of people leaving that corner of the universe because of the Great Cyber War. Apparently, the Cybermen, at some point, have reached this far out or have It's said in the spin-off media that the original Cybermen, who we've not seen in the modern series,
in many years,
and the Cybermen have bumped into each other at some point and amalgamated into one another. Which is like, yeah, I buy that. It'd be nice if there was at least one line of dialogue in the series to indicate that. It would explain how somehow there were time-travelled Cybermen that had crashed under London last series and then ended up buried underneath a department store and stuff, because the Cybers guys weren't capable of time travel. Well, I don't know, the next Doctor implies that like they've managed to crack it in some way. I don't know. Point is, the Cybers logo vanished sometime after the Pandorica story. They had chest panels with no logo on them in closing time. And then in this, there's an old one hollowed out and being used as a mechanical Turk, in Webley's sort of Cabinet of Curiosities, being operated by a nearby military camp friend, Porridge, played by Warwick Davis. So you got two great guest actors there, Jason Watkins and Warwick Davis. Brilliant. Both are kind of underutilised. It feels like Warwick Davis isn't in it enough.
Yeah.
Even though he turns out to be a very important character. And it feels like Jason Watkins is wasted because once he gets, like, partially converted into the Cyberiad, he doesn't do anything. He gives some exposition to Matt Smith and then just stands around. And then dies at the end.
I don't even remember him doing that.
What a waste of Jason Watkins.
Yeah.
That ITV2 advert, drama versus reality TV, uses him better than this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's a shame, because he's so good. But, yeah, whatever. We learn that there's the Cyber Wars, like, wrecked everything, and the Cybermen were seemingly defeated when... And it's never brought up in front of the Doctor, or at least lingered on by the Doctor, because it's a parallel to what he did, which will become important again at the end of the next episode, leading into the 50th. But we learn that the Emperor, and that title in itself is very questionable, because it implies, being a freaking emperor and ruling over people instead of, like, leading them on to safety and security, which is what the part ultimately is. But in his spaceship with curtains, that we learn that an emperor pulled the trigger and wiped out a galaxy as evacuated as it could be, but obviously with still people there, wiped out a galaxy that the Cybermen had all been kind of lured into. And now these punishment... We never learned what for. These punishment battalions have been scattered on the outreaches of the black hole that's left from this implosion to just keep an eye out for any signs of cyber activity, just in case any of them slipped through.
Yeah.
And we're never told why they're a punishment battalion, but we've got the captain, played by the brilliant Tamsin Outhwaite, who's the only one who seems kind of capable but a little bit trigger-happy. Like, she's not violent, but she's ready to just immediately go into, like, brutal action.
I'm going to kill these children.
Yeah, pretty much. And then you've got, like, I shid you not, these are the names of the other characters, yeah? Missy, Ha-Ha, Brains, and Beauty. That's the script name for the other soldiers who had lines.
Yeah. I mean, it's not great.
It's weird, is what it is. It's very, very strange, but like the idea is these are the crap soldiers. These are the crap soldiers.
It almost...
And they're here as punishment. Like, everything's finished, everyone else is going home to rest, but you and some other outposts are people who... We don't know why they're being punished. But, like, you guys are going to basically keep an eye out for another 5 years or whatever. And it's a good job those battalions exist, because Cybermites, a great idea. An evolution of the Cybermat into tinier technology. Genuinely a brilliant idea introduced in this episode. And it's the only reason the Cybermen managed to start to regroup, because of these things. And then, at the end, the only reason they survive this is because one of them is adrift in space, presumably ready to reactivate another dormant battalion somewhere. Sorry, go on, I interrupted because I just wanted to yell Cybermite.
It doesn't make sense anymore, really, but... the battalion that have been sent there as a punishment, it almost felt like it needed, like, a slapstick fall in the background with a whoop kind of sound. It just seemed really dumb.
And yet the sets and everything don't lend to the premise being a bit more wacky or weird, which would have at least given it a bit more of an identity as a story, maybe. Do you know what I mean? Like if the episode played more into the Keystone Cops, Dad's Army kind of vibe, and that was the angle of the story being told, at least then it'd kind of have a weird offbeat charm to it. Yeah, I mean, it's a story where there are two kids in the story. Yeah. You could play it as more of a comedy for kids. Now, maybe don't make that the reintroduction of a new version of the Cybermen, because that would cheapen that. Yeah. But do something else.
Do something with it.
It feels like it's a better version of this would have been a non-Cyberman story that went out into the actual theme park, maybe. Like, there are a hall that just looks like the same hall that, like, the soldiers were in The Doctor's Daughter, like, or that the Hath were gathered in, like, just a community centre. You've got the comical castle, which is a really funny gag, and then it's just a castle. There's nothing comical about it when they go, it's just a castle.
They had so much potential.
And then we learn there's just a boatload of Cybermen buried under the place, in a tomb, in a shot that doesn't look very good.
Ugh. Ropey.
So weird! Which in itself undermines how good the Cyberman redesign is, in my opinion. I really like it. We're in a post-Iron Man world. And they've gone, we should probably make this a bit slicker now. Like, the 2006 design has done well. But we should probably I mean, the Cybermen redesigned, like, every other appearance in the original series. Like, maybe we should redesign them. So they go for a more streamlined, like, Iron Man armor look. Sure. Show that they're a bit more nasty and a bit more brutal. Like, they've got a cannon mounted on their wrist. No messing around anymore. You can't miss the damn thing. They have a gun on them at all times, built into their arm.
You can't miss them, but they'll probably miss you.
But that's scary. Like, they slap cybermites onto soldiers and start to convert them into drones. Like, that's a scary bit of technique for you there. Like, imagine someone coming up to you and be like, I'm going to have you hacked to pieces in a machine and turn you into a robot like me, and you're like, no thanks, and then they go slap with this thing on the side of your head, and you're like, oh god, I guess I'm doing what they say now.
I didn't ask.
And then I'm going to walk into a chamber and get turned into a robot. Like, that's scary. The bit where it goes super fast, weird, don't like that. Very strange. I like the bit where its head turns around when one of the soldiers is stalking after one in the castle corridors, and its head just spins around to look at them. Like, yeah, you can do that with the Cybermen. That's unique.
Creeper.
Where one of them takes its hands off or whatever, and its hand like attacks somebody. Like, that's a great idea. Carry on from that Pandorica Opens bit of body horror, Evil Dead stuff that they did in the Pandorica Opens. Like, that's great. But they just get wiped out pretty easy.
I feel like it's another one of those stories where
having an army of them makes them look more pathetic. Sorry, go on.
Just like absolutely enjoyable.
I'm sorry, go on. I just pictured that bloody awful CGI army shot of them outside the castle.
It felt like it was one of those episodes where it could have been Didn't have to be Cybermen. It could have been anything. Really.
Could have been anything. And I think that would have made a better story. Just have it be a new creation that's simple and straightforward.
You don't have to bring them up again.
Yeah.
It's literally that, and then move on. Because
the best thing about the whole episode is because of the Cybermen, but it doesn't feel like a very Cybermen idea or performance. Mr. Clever is the best thing about the episode. Some Cybermites basically hack the Doctor because they wanted to, so they found the children. The children are what reawoke the Cybermites because they wanted to use the limitless imagination of a child to help conceive new ways for them to upgrade. Because, like, you know, all the people they fought and everything know how to deal with their weaknesses. So they need inspiration. Cybermen are not good at invention, essentially. Yeah, like, they're about, like, uniformity. So a child, great, hack into a child's brain and use it. But they don't bother using Artie or Angie at all. So they're just there. They use the Doctor. Do you think it's
because they go, not much there?
Kind of dull.
Get the Doctor. Excellent.
I'm afraid these two children are rather dull, leader. Excellent. I mean, no.
Not
excellent. So... They get right on my side, but I will not stand for it.
I love that impression because it scares me, but also makes me laugh. So good.
Like Matt Smith in this episode, because when he gets hacked, he fights against the programming taking over, and it essentially creates an offshoot where, like, his intelligence is utilised by the Cyberiad to create an opponent for him, like the thing he's going to turn into.
Yeah.
To help them imagine their new armies and then their new guises and everything. So we get Matt Smith playing a in real time Jekyll and Hyde character. And that's really fun because, like what we've said about most of this series and last series, he's the best thing about this show at this point.
Yeah.
He's always entertaining. His choices, for the most part, Jenny, for the most part, are really good. Like, they are so... Oh, yeah, because we've gone past the mystery wrapped in an enigma wrapped in a skirt that's just a little bit too tight now, haven't we? Ugh. Anyway, his choices, for the most part, are really good, and him as Mr. Clever is fantastic. The two of them facing off against each other in his mind is a lot of fun. The chess game between them is great, especially when, like, Mr. Clever starts kind of playing Clara. You know what I mean? Like, that's just creepy.
I barely remember any of this, I'm going to be honest.
Him with the stuff on his face.
No, like, I know that.
Jekyll and Hyde.
But I don't know, it was another one of those episodes where I was like, okay, switch off. I'm going to do something else.
And I do like how he resolves it. Like, he knows Mr. Clever's not going to agree to let the children go and leave everybody alone if the Doctor wins the chess match. So what the Doctor does is he, uses the fact that he's hooked up to the Siberium. The Siberiad, sorry, the Siberium's a few seasons away. So that once all the Cybermen have made it to the castle, he's able to hack into them, stop them, and use their brain computing power to figure out the chess move and how to detach himself from the nanites, basically. That's a lot of fun. I think that's a great idea. But it doesn't have to be the Cybermen. It could just be some kind of techno-virus or a possession thing, like it's an alien, like, spore or something. Do you know what I mean? There's other ways to do it. I think the whole episode's a big mismatch. There are Neil Gaiman ingredients in it, but they're not nurtured. They're not allowed to flourish because it just looks cheap as sin that they're filming at a bit of a castle and they're filming at a town hall. And
they had so much potential. I mean, you could have done the stereotypical thing of the ghost house, the ghost train, the Hall of Mirrors.
Yeah, and with a different creature would have been a lot of fun.
I mean, Neil Gaiman would have absolutely rocked that because he's down with the creepy shit.
Now,
but
since then, he's gone on to write television better. Write it good. Like the Good Omens adaptation works brilliantly.
Oh, yeah.
Series 2's not out as of this recording, but it will be out by the time you're watching it, and we can't wait to see it.
Oh yeah.
But it just doesn't work with this. It's odd. And also, fan nitpick, Webley's Museum of Curiosities obviously contains a lot of random props from Sarah Jane Adventures and like Mission 2110 and Doctor Who in the background, but they're not out of focus. A lot of them are in frame and in focus, which really distracts you when you're like, that's General Kudlak's head just sat on a cabinet. That's the Shan Sheath, it's its head just sat on a cabinet.
There's a not Hoix.
Hoix.
What was it? The bubbly
Hath.
Hath.
There's a Hath head just sat on a unit. But weirdest of all, and this is the biggest nitpick, one of the ventriloquist dolls from the God Complex, which were a simulation. It isn't a real thing.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
So it's so obvious that they've just dig out a bunch of props, which is what you should do. But you put the more recognisable ones way in the back, and you make sure that the director or the DOP or whoever knows not to focus on the stuff in the back. It's like the Ice Warrior puppet making its weird cameo in Rings of Akhaten.
Yeah.
And also the Clara Doctor promos we'll talk about in the next video, where you just see it static on the hover bike, and it's really weird. Nightmare in Silver, it's not great.
Yawnage.
I like the twist that that Porridge is the Emperor and has basically just been hiding to make sure that the threat is really over and doesn't want to be the figure of everyone's attention because he feels guilty for wiping out lives to try and save the rest of the universe. But again, that's a storyline that you should have lent into with the Doctor being involved in that conversation. Clara's fine in this. I do like that she takes charge a bit because you can see she's being a bit more inspired by the Doctor at this point, and not in that weird way next series where it's like, I am the Doctor and all that stuff. But anyway, Nightmare in Silver, it's a thing. the Silver Turk nod with the Mechanical Turk Cyberman is a great visual.
Yeah.
That's a great visual.
Because the Doctor's like, whoa!
On now to a finale that is actually...
Have we got another episode to talk about?
One more. It's actually high stakes, but it feels really cheap, weirdly. The Name of the Doctor.
I'm going to have to look this one up because I don't remember it.
Well, I can tell you real quick for those who want a little summary.
Those are a little something.
Clara, Strax, Vastra, Jenny, and apparently River Song are summoned into a Sherlocky Mind Palace conference call to discuss the fact that Vastra's been made aware of the Doctor being called to Trenzalore. Trenzalore has been mentioned last series by Dorium very briefly. The fields of Trenzalore, where the question will be asked, the oldest question, the question which must never be answered.
What
Doctor
time is
Who?
it? Oh.
Mr. Wolf, when's lunch? No, Doctor Who. Doctor Who. Well, we're about to get a conclusion to that storyline. So this, are you ready for this? Oh my god. This, if you're keeping track, boys and girls, is the prophecy of the Silence. The Silence were trying to kill the Doctor to prevent the Doctor from reaching Trenzalore. We learn in this episode that the Doctor knows of Trenzalore and knows that Trenzalore is apparently where he's buried. Great idea. The idea that a time traveller has become aware of where their grave is and is never going to visit it because the idea of it is terrifying.
Yeah.
Great idea. The idea that when you get there, Trenzalore is a battlefield for loads of warriors, a big graveyard, and in the middle of it, the TARDIS has been leaking and cracking and breaking, so the exterior is huge, is a great idea. The TARDIS is his tombstone. Brilliant idea. It's also his tomb. Brilliant idea. The fact that they arrive on Trenzalore and the window cracks because the TARDIS is reluctant to land there and they get through and the window cracks in the kerfuffle, and then you see the enlarged TARDIS and the same crack is on the window, implying that, bitch, this is where you die, is a great idea. Like, there's some brilliant visual storytelling in this. Matt Smith gives one of his best moments as the 11th Doctor for me in this story. The bit where Clara relays the message to him and he's just sat on the couch weeping quietly. And when he speaks to her, he can barely, breathe.
I don't remember that.
You were crocheting at the time. You weren't watching it. What do you remember from this one?
That
Moffat writing another stupid poem about Whispermen that means nothing.
I'm a bit sick to death of hearing about the Doctor dying.
Because all of last series was about that.
And it's
yeah.
like, oh, we
but Boo,
escaped that, but the Doctor's going to die again.
But Boo, we finally discover that what the silence were trying to prevent. Because apparently the Doctor's time stream is broken inside the TARDIS tomb, and someone's going to step inside it to murder the Doctor throughout all of time, and that in turn will create horrible paradoxes, and, like, you know, all the victories, all the lives he saved will be reversed and ruined. So the Silence wanted to prevent that. Why? Why did the Silence know about this? Why wouldn't the Silence just, I don't know, set up protections around his grave, or find a way to contain the time stream so no one could gain access to it? What? If the Silence are meant to be good guys, then why do they act all sinister and creepy?
Yeah.
Like, I just... and the fact that at no point in this episode does anyone ever allude to the idea of this is what the Silence were trying to prevent. It's ugh. The Whispermen, great design, awful voices.
Yeah, it's scared. They make me think of the gentleman from Buffy.
It's like the gentleman and Slender Man had a baby, and that baby couldn't act.
You're very good at describing things today.
Thank you, except when I'm not, my words break down. I really, really like Alex Kingston in this one.
I agree.
Especially when you realise that it's the latest River we've ever actually met.
Yeah.
Because this is post-death River. Yeah. Possibly reaching out from the library.
Isn't she, like, confused that Vastra's managed to get in touch with her in general?
River's not. In fact, she implies that this has happened before.
Oh.
But River is...
Does River know who she is?
Who is?
Sorry, no, it's...
Does River know who Vastra is?
River and Clara haven't met.
Yeah, River and Clara haven't met, yeah. But, because you get the usual Moffat thing of the jealous girl
has he
joke.
talked about me?
And she's like, yeah, Professor Song, he's mentioned you a lot. Sorry, I didn't realise we were a woman. Yeah. And River's a bit sort of like, oh, great. Let's cause some jealousy, even though River wouldn't act like that, because River appreciates and understands the friends that he's had over the years and gets it. She doesn't get jealous of those people. Anyway. So, like, come on. She meets Donna and isn't immediately like, oh, you're his best mate. She's like, oh my god, you're Donna Noble. And you can see she's like, oh god, I know what happens to you. I'm so sorry. Anyway. But, like, this is either River reaching out from the library somehow, or it's an echo of her. Like, it's not even really her. Like, her consciousness is now in the library, and this is just this sort of psychic echo that's just drifting through existence. Which is really tragic, because she's been keeping an eye on the Doctor, and we find out that the Doctor's kind of been aware of her on his peripheral at all times ever since she died. Their last moments together in this, like him getting to say a proper goodbye, is wonderful.
The kiss as well.
The kiss, the way it's played between the two of them.
I don't like...
I don't like kissing.
Anything.
That's a lie.
I don't like seeing kissing...
People smooch on camera.
On camera. It makes my skin crawl.
It's an ick, as the kids say.
Yeah, it is a proper ick for me. But that, strangely enough, wasn't. It seemed very genuine.
Yeah.
Almost as if they were two really good actors.
If I remember, yeah. Well, if I remember correctly, this is River's second to last ever appearance in the show.
Which is what I was surprised about.
Yeah, because you went, is she around next series? And I went, nope. She shows up in a future Christmas special and is obnoxiously River in the first half, and then there's one moment that changes it, and suddenly the last half is wonderful. And she's great. And she gets to act alongside another Doctor actor, and it's really nice to see.
Oh, Capaldi.
Yep. Oh. Her last story is a Capaldi story. The villain is the Great Intelligence. We finally learn the full extent of the Great Intelligence's scheme. So, chronologically, the Great Intelligence's appearances, chronologically for the Great Intelligence in Doctor Who, on television, no spin-off media, have been the Snowmen, the Abominable Snowmen, the Web of Fear, the Bells of St. John, and the name of the Doctor. It's back to looking like Richard E. Grant. It's kind of neat when you realise the Whispermen also look like Solomon. They just have a white blank face.
When you've found perfection, you should just, embrace it.
Welcome to the tomb of the Doctor. Like, he's having fun in this, playing essentially an angry but still kind of blank villain.
He's a beautiful, beautiful man.
He is. When you saw him, you laughed. You cheered. Sorry, I really shouldn't. So embarrassing. That gave me the ick. Especially when I saw Rise of Skywalker, I was like, oh, Richard, I'm so happy that you're in a Star Wars movie, because you clearly always wanted to be, but this is not the film to be celebrating, my dude. I'm so sorry. Anyway. Oh, God. So... he's playing the Great Intelligence as kind of blank. Like, if the Terminator wasn't blank and intimidating, but was blank and kind of snarky. Do you know what I mean? Like, hints of nastiness, hints of vengeance.
That'd be a very different film.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, Arnie plays the Terminator as a blank robot who can put on an intimidating presence.
A nightmare is what I would call
it. But, like, in this, Richard E. Grant is playing a blank, computer program that is also like you can almost feel like it's starting to feel glad because it's about to do some effed up stuff to the Doctor. Like it's looking, because this is also the Great Intelligence's last story, because it dies in this story. It kills itself in this story, going into the Doctor's time stream, and it's implied, we don't see it, we see him stalking him in throughout his lifeline, but we don't see any executions or whatever. But the implication is he's murdering the Doctor several times along his timeline. Like, so obviously if he just went back and murdered the first Doctor, that'd do it. But, like, it's more about him, he wants him to suffer. Like, he goes into the time stream, and the Great Intelligence is ripped into a billion pieces, and each one of them is trying to track down the Doctor to harm the Doctor or harm people he's trying to save. And that's when Clara realises who she is. Like, she realises that once she does that, she'll be in a million billion places and she can save him. Is it a retcon? I guess it is, because Trenzalore is not the final resting place of the Doctor, and the TARDIS doesn't stay like that. So, time can be rewritten in some instances, and I guess Trenzalore is one of those instances, because Clara does rewrite it. And yet, it was already meant to happen, because he'd met her and had 2 adventures with versions of her that helped save him. So, Clara was proof that the Intelligence was never going to win.
Here's a question.
Yes.
How did Clara recognise the Doctor in all those situations?
She didn't.
So she just happened to come across it?
She's sort of, in the opening narration of this episode, and I love the opening of this episode because it suddenly makes you go, oh yeah, the mystery at the centre of this series. We see her, like, falling through, like, some kind of effect, and you see her meeting, or nearly meeting, different Doctors.
Yeah. In
some very well edited, some not as well edited, like, visual effect shots of past stories, and sometimes just actors, doubles in the Doctor's outfit, like running through frame or walking past. That shot of her in a TARDIS corridor that's sort of Dutch tilting and it's in dark lighting, and the 6th Doctor just walks through the back of frame, is really good. It's like, oh, what the hell's going on there? Like, it looks really eerie.
I mean, also, she really fell down the same hill that Sarah Jane fell down.
Oh, God. Quick, Pertwee, get a bit of string. But, like, it's fun because it sort of shows you her in adventures we've seen. Like, we see a bit of her in Dragonfire, like looking at the Doctor clinging on for dear life on that umbrella. Was that them trying to imply that the Great Intelligence made that happen? Because, of course, in that episode we were like, why'd he do that? What was the point in that?
That's
the dumbest cliffhanger ever.
Watching a clown.
Just be a clown.
Being a clown.
With no reason for it. Whereas this, I guess, is implying that, no, the Great Intelligence did something, and that Clara rescues him even though she doesn't. And, like, we see her, I can't remember the bloody 5th Doctor story now, but we see her looking at him in that, like, mind prison thing. Was that an Arc of Infinity? I can't remember. We see her tell the 1st Doctor and Susan which TARDIS to nick.
How did she know who it was, though?
Well, exactly.
Was he going, I am the Doctor!
Hello, I'm the Doctor!
Susan,
but also, why were he and Susan dressed like that?
Yeah.
They wouldn't be, would they? So that doesn't make any sense.
No. It doesn't really make sense.
Like, that would have been better if they hadn't tried to show off and put Hartnell and a double of Carol Ann Ford in the frame. That would have been better if you just kind of saw him from behind and heard the voice. You know, yes, what is it? Like, if you'd heard the voice, that would have worked brilliantly. Because then you could go, okay, that's kind of funny. But also, maybe, like, show her working on another TARDIS or something, trying to repair it, and make it so that version of Clara is a Gallifreyan who worked in, like, the TARDIS repair and everything. Well,
why was she
splintered
dressed?
through time.
Yeah, well, okay, right. But why was she dressed like that?
Same reason why she was randomly on the side of the road when John Pertwee was being chased by the taken out of the shot time scoop from the Five Doctors. Although that was a clever use of her, like her calling after him and him looking in the mirror, and using that shot of him looking at the time scoop to instead be him looking back at this woman who's calling his name. Like that was well edited. I liked that.
But he would have stopped and gone,
Yes, hello, young lady.
Yeah.
Hello. Well, that's the thing. She in the opening narration she establishes it. She doesn't always remember him, and he doesn't always hear her, but sometimes he does.
But how does she know?
She loves him.
But I'm really confused as to how she would know it was the Doctor.
Because she's splintered. The same reason that the Great Intelligence knows what it's doing when it goes in there.
Is she, like, automatically drawn to them?
Yeah. She sort of, yeah. So there'll be Claras that never meet him, ever.
Yeah. Right, okay.
But there'll be ones that do. And those ones are the ones that have re-diverted the course and made sure that he doesn't... Because they've not gone in... All those Claras haven't gone, I have to find the Doctor and save him from the Great Intelligence.
Yeah.
But they've followed the Great Intelligence in, so they've automatically splintered to the same places. So it's this kind of it's interference basically, and sometimes she kind of knows what she's doing and sometimes she doesn't. And it's weird because the moment you think about it, like a lot of Moffat's finales, the more it breaks to pieces, because that means that she has to have been there all along to make sure this course happened, and we know she was there all along because we met two of them. But the Great Intelligence wasn't there all along. That's new. So, yeah, I like with the turn your brain off and don't think about it moments, because they do work quite well. Like seeing the effect of it. Jenny is just gone. Yeah. Can we talk about that moment earlier on where you think she's been killed? Oh, that is terrifying.
She has been killed. She was killed and Strax brings her back.
Well, okay, yeah, so she died for a minute or two and then got resuscitated.
Hold on a second. Wait 1 second. So he's got the power of resurrection?
No, defibrillator. He defibrillated her, didn't he? I don't know. Yeah, because what the Whispermen do is reach inside you and stop your heart. We learn. Through dialogue. But anyway, do you not remember the poem that everyone's said since the Victorian times?
No, I don't.
Beware the Whispermen. Tick-tock goes the clock.
Bibbidi-bobbidi-boo.
Oh, Jesus, I just wish he'd stop that. It's such an annoying trope. We've got to have a spooky rhyme. Why?
Why?
Because we do. Well, where's it from? People just sing it. Right, why do they sing it? Well, people sing the Freddy Krueger rhyme because, like, he's an urban myth. Like, it makes sense. I don't know. Anyway, point is... the bit where we think Jenny's been killed is brilliant. Catherine Stewart plays that amazingly. She's like, I'm really sorry, Mum. I think I've just been killed. Like, well, it's the first bit where she's like, there's someone in the room with us. It's like, oh my God, that's really haunting. That Whisper Man being at the end of the corridor through the window in one shot is really creepy.
Yeah.
Where it's just there. But then they open their mouths and, like, they got the intern to just do the voiceover or something, because it's like the most uninspired voice for them all. It's just, it's weird. I like Strax going up to Glasgow to pick fights.
He's on holiday.
That's his holiday. So he goes to Scotland to fight. I wish he'd never discovered that wretched place. Scotland. It's just like, bloody hell.
And then they're just chatting like, oh, sorry, we're going to have to do this other time.
I'm going to need you to render me unconscious. Yeah, sure. This might take several tries. The guy knocks him out in one go. Like, that's funny. Vastra's great. I love the bit. Yeah, so I love that time starts to get affected. Jenny just disappears. Vastra sees whole constellations vanishing in the sky.
Yeah.
And then when she turns to Strax, Strax has basically regressed back to a Sontaran warrior.
Reptile scum.
Yeah, like, that's really scary. Like, it's like, that's a great way to show how the Doctor has changed everything. But it's weird because it's the season finale, and the fact that this is the only way we're seeing how time's being affected feels a little small. Now, I don't mind that. I honestly don't mind that at all. Like, come on. The Big Bang was just them running around a museum for half of it. Yeah. And that worked brilliantly. I just think that, like, you're trying to set up the idea that the universe is about to be utterly destroyed by what the Great Intelligence is doing for, ultimately, petty revenge. The Great Intelligence really is that bitch. And do you know what I mean? Like, ultimately, that's what the Great Intelligence is. Over thousands of years, this is what it's built up to. Murdering him because he just keeps showing up and ruining its plans.
Yep. And
it's decided to pick Solomon's face, I guess, because it's Series 7 and they want to keep the arc from the Snowman going. But also because it's Richard D. Grant, he's a beautiful man. But also because I guess Vastra, Jenny, and Strax are in it, so it kind of wants to make them realise what they're dealing with. Do you know what I mean? Because they'll be like, oh, it's you. Hang on. Wait, why is it you? Do you know what I mean? So, like, sure. Fine. This is fine. This is a finale that only kind of really works, I think, for the binge. It works for the Series 7 binge. It's not a... Oh my god, go on, put that one on. Let's watch that. It's not a Parting of the Ways, Bad Wolf. It's not a Ghost... oh my god, what's it called?
I don't know. What are you saying to me?
Series 2. The two-part Doomsday and Thingy of Ghosts or Ghosts or whatever. I ain't afraid of no ghost. You know which one I mean,
Ghosts
though.
of...
Not helping. You know which one I mean, though,
yes.
Right? Yeah. So, like, that one, or you know, basically the Russell T Davies era finales work as just, oh, let's put on something really exciting. Let's put on a really exciting Doctor Who story. They work in their purest form as a, you've watched the whole series and this is how it's ending, but you could also just stick those ones on and have a really, really fun time. I think this one doesn't work that way. I think you have to have watched all Series 7, or at least Series 7 Part B, for this to feel like a payoff in any way.
Yeah.
Which, you know, is fine as a box set, and that's how we're watching it. But it's probably the most... I mean...
Meh.
Finale. Is it, though? Like, what did you think? I can't remember what you thought of The Wedding of River Song. The Series 6 one with time, you know, what happened to time? And
that one was okay.
That one was fun and exciting. Yeah, that was it. That one is fun and exciting, and then you think about it and it completely unravels. Yeah, I don't know. The pattern's starting to show now.
I was just going to say that.
What most people remember about it, though, is the ending. Yeah. Where the Doctor realises he has a chance to dive into his time stream. He's got a limited window, and he's going to make it because he has to get Clara. Like, it's that whole thing of, it's the Fifth Doctor, like, I got her into this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the whole thing of, like, she's done this for me. The least I can do is try. Because all that's going to happen to him now at this point, if he goes in there and it doesn't work, is he will die, and this will indeed be his final resting place.
Yeah.
So he tries. And we find Clara briefly being run past by, like the Fourth Doctor and the Ninth Doctor. Hey! Well, body doubles for him.
Yeah.
And I know they shot this quite late because I was doing behind the scenes at Roflock in Cardiff while they were shooting the 50th. And one of the higher-ups on Wizards, who'd also worked with Doctor Who at some point in its modern tenure, obviously knowing NDA and knowing I wouldn't like share anything, didn't tell me any plot stuff about the 50th, but told me a few of the cool things they'd seen being filmed at that point. And obviously now here we are, as the time you're watching this, nearly 10 years later, so I can quite happily just tell you they were talking about how they had body doubles in the older Doctor's outfits. And they were shooting some stuff for them for 2 episodes. And it was like, oh, that's really cool. Now we know what those two episodes are. One of them was for the shot at the end of Day of the Doctor from behind. You know, when in the dream where like the 11th walks through and you can see the other incarnations lined up facing away.
Yeah.
That shot is body doubles. Yeah. From the front, it's the original shots they'd chosen of the actors or amalgamation of a body double pose with superimposed faces.
From the front, it's all horses.
Yeah, it's all horses. You can't use cows on film. They got to use horses. And the other one was a last-minute bit of shooting to add to this episode so as to avoid spoilers, which of course was the bits with Clara at the top and tail of this episode. They were added quite late into the filming from what I understand, to avoid it being spoilt anywhere, and to avoid the final surprise, which is the one who broke the promise. Another surprise.
Sorry.
The one who broke the promise. The Doctor, because there's the whole thing in this as well. It's like the question will be answered, Doctor Who, and it is because the Doctor's real name is the password into the TARDIS on Trenzalore. And the Silence apparently wanted to kill the Doctor, so he'd never say the answer. But the Doctor doesn't say it. The ghost of River Song whispers it, and the TARDIS responds. Yeah? Why did she do that? Because they were going to kill the Doctor's friends, and River knew there must be another way. Maybe. I can't tell why, honestly, off the top of my head.
Because the crowd went, whoa!
Oh, God.
Sorry.
That doesn't make sense out of any context for anyone. How did I know? Because the crowd went, Doctor Who! Yeah, and that's the thing he says to Clara, you don't understand my name, my real name's not important, the name I chose is what's important. It's like the name you give yourself, and it's like, that. At the time watching this, I was like, that doesn't sound like a common concept. Now, people obviously transitioning and trying to lose their dead names. I'm like, I don't think Moffat was writing that with that in mind. But yeah, it's a much more common idea of people giving themselves names now because they want to be their real name, what they feel is their real name.
Yeah.
But I like the idea he's talking about the title. He says it's a promise. The Doctor is a promise. He's the one who broke the promise. And we hear the infamous lines... I'm looking for the pub. I'm
looking for a love.
What I did, I'm looking for some jokes. What I did without choice, in the name of peace and sanity. And then Matt Smith says, not in the name of the Doctor. And they walk away.
Great power comes great.
As they walk away, a mysterious bearded man turns around. And none of them act confused when floating text appears next to him, revealing John Hurt as the Doctor. I remember watching this with our lovely friend Guy Lambert in his flat in West London.
Oh, lovely guy. We love you, Guy.
Going out on his telly. We watched this happen and we both went, what? What? And I remember how much buzz there was when this went out. Do you remember?
No.
You don't remember at all? The buzz of, oh my God, John Hurt is the Doctor? What is going on?
No, I remember the buzz, but I don't remember feeling it because I had, like I said before, I'd started to check out.
The 50th brought you back a little bit, didn't it?
Yeah, because that was very exciting, and it had my boy.
We'll go into all that. But yeah, had your boy in it? Your then boy? David Tennant.
Yeah.
That's changed already.
I've got 3 boys.
Have you?
Yeah.
Who's your third boy? Oh, has Matt Smith made it to your top 3?
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's so cool.
Tom's just underneath.
The John Hurt reveal was brilliant. We'll talk more about him, obviously, in an upcoming video. But I think people mostly think of this episode... Because this episode's the consensus is, Name of the Doctor's really good. I don't think people remember the Name of the Doctor. I think they remember the... I think they remember the buzz they felt watching it on transmission and the ending and how that ending made them feel. The same way that crap horror films end with a random jump scare before the credits.
Yeah.
That usually makes no sense, and it's because they want you to leave the cinema going, oh, that was amazing. Amazing films like Sinister, where last second the studio add a jump scare in the last frame for no reason.
You can't say Sinister though, because that's funny.
Well,
the just pops into
it's pointless because what's it called? Bagul, and it's been defeated and it's dead. And then the last shot of the movie is obviously just.
It's not. That's the thing.
Well, it's meant to be because the end of the film is that lingering shot of the equipment just sat there in the attic, and that should be it, shouldn't it? The film reel's there.
No, because the girl kills.
Oh my God! Stop talking about the plot of Sinister and listen to the basics here.
Sorry.
It's this creepy lingering shot to show you that maybe it's not over. Credits. Like, that's obviously Scott Derrickson, the director's intention in that moment, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a bad example because that's not what happens. But
Well, but I mean, like, the shot is meant to just be that. It's meant to be a lingering feeling of, oh, and that's it. And then the studio do an extra day of shooting and get the actor to go into frame at the end. And it's so stupid.
It made me laugh.
Because who's he looking at? Like, who's he looking at?
Hello.
It doesn't make sense. Hello.
Hello.
Like, even the extra scare at the end of Nightmare on Elm Street isn't played as a jump scare. It's played as a, oh no, you're not out of this.
What,
you're not out
window,
the thing being pulled through the window. And then the car, like, but the thing is, it telephones that's about to happen. It ends on that really striking visual that was, let's be honest, it was a bit crap at the time. But like the intent of that scene is still brilliant because the idea is it's not over, and it's telegraphed because you see the roof of the convertible start to fold over, and you, the viewer, go, "That's his jumper." Wait a minute, Nancy's dreaming. Oh my god! And it's, you know what I mean?
Oh my god, that doll just got dragged through.
That sex doll just got pulled through a small window.
I can't help it. That's another moment where it just.
I think people remember the name of the Doctor fondly because of that. Because of the John Hurt of it all. Well, let us know in the comments down below. Because again, it's just like, River, get them home. What?
Hey?
Go to the TARDIS, it'll get you home. How?
I'm not a person.
And keep in mind, the next time we see the characters, it's Day of the Doctor. So how do they get the TARDIS back? Anyway. How did the Doctor and Clara get back to Earth? Like, what? Anyway. What do you guys think? Do you think we're being a bit harsh on the name of the Doctor, or do you two also think that it's mostly the hype of the ending that made people think of it fondly? Do you like the episodes we watched more than we did? Do you agree with us on the stuff we like? Do you agree with us on the stuff we dislike? Let us know down in the comments below. We'd love to chat with y'all. We'll be back soon with a very quick video, which we're going to film immediately after this, talking about all of the Series 7 incidental material. Because Jesus wept, there was a lot of it. And then we're going to make tea, because it's quite late and we're probably hungry. Are you hungry?
I'm starving.
Yeah.
I've been at work all day. It's 10 past 10.
Well, let's record this quick then.
Oh.
Bye!